From the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Midwest, you're watching Beyond the Blast Doors live.
It is episode 69 of Beyond the Blast Doors. More Rise of Skywalker footage this week. Snoke teaches Kylo how to kill the past in a very familiar place, and you can become Kyle Katarn all over again, plus some Mandalorian news. We have it all covered for you. Episode 69 of Beyond the Blast Doors. Jesse, look happy. You're awake on a Sunday morning. You're talking about Star Wars. You look like you're going to kill a puppy. We are going to talk about everything. And as always, welcome to our Star Wars conversation here on a Sunday morning, going live a little bit earlier than we usually do. Had family in town, had a wonky work schedule. You actually hung out with family. That was really nice. I'm happy for you. What? Why are you looking at me like I'm some kind of...
You make it sound like I'm not normally interested in hanging out with my family.
No,
They're good people.
No, they're great people. They're the best people. But it's just usually I'm the one always traveling down to St. Louis to see family, and you were like, no, not today.
Yeah, you're right.
You were like, hey, what are you doing for the holidays? And he's like, well, I'm staying here. You go, you're going to stay here in the Midwest? You're not going to travel south into the Midwest to see your family? No, not this time. Okay. So I was just really happy that you spent some time with your family.
It was fun. It was enjoyable. I had some cousins come in from Baltimore. Got to hang out with them. Went to a place called Pie. Ate some good pizza. I presume that's why they call it Pie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy for you.
Yeah.
That was sincere. That made you. I sounded like a jerk, but I was trying to be sincere.
That's all right.
We should talk about Star Wars again.
We should.
Usually, at the top of an episode, we would say something along the lines of, hey, David, what happened on this day in Star Wars history?
Well, David, let me tell you, today was a riveting day in Star Wars history because nothing has happened in 40 plus years of Star Wars history on September 15th.
Can we make Star Wars history today?
We can.
Let's make Star Wars history today. That's the mantra. We're making Star Wars history today. Use the hashtag on social media when you're talking about this episode of Beyond the Blast Doors. But as always, movies, TV, comics, toys, cosplay, it's our Star Wars conversation here on YouTube. Normally, we are live Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central, going a little early today. That's no problem at all. We do want to tell you where else you can find us, though. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Stitcher, SoundCloud. Of course, you're watching live on YouTube maybe in this moment. You can always follow us for updates when we're going live, when we're scheduling next shows, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That's for you. Also want to thank our sponsors, the Fantasy Shop in Maplewood, Missouri, proudly serving St. Louis since 1981. They have comics, they have games, they have card games, they have miniatures. They also have a really good snack bar. Literally, they just have everything you possibly could ask for. So it's the Fantasy Shop, Maplewood, Missouri, proudly serving St. Louis since 1981, and the sponsor of this show. We are going to be talking about comics later on, but I put that a little further, and I feel like that might be the story of the week. So I've put that a little later in the show because I think it's going to have some really great conversation. I think that this is the bridge, right? We kind of felt like there was going to be this small, brief period of time post D23 that we weren't going to get any nuggets that might have any connections to the final Star Wars movie, the final Skywalker saga film. That might have changed in Age of Resistance, Snoke, which if you've watched the show for any period of time, I'm not the biggest Snoke fan, but his comic seems to be fairly revealing. Hey guys, let's talk about. I don't know, Jesse. What do you want to talk about?
Well, we're supposed to get that rumored trailer tomorrow.
Why are you whispering?
I don't know.
Yeah, don't whisper. There's no trailer coming out tomorrow. What trailer are you talking about?
I think he needs another cup of coffee to get to the point where he's jazzed as I am.
Do you just need to go and get another cup of coffee?
Like an IV of caffeine.
Okay. So he butchered that intro, but let's try it again. Rise of Skywalker, we have word that we're going to be getting that third and final trailer here coming up in October, coming to Monday Night Football of all places. We have the graphic for you. So the first topic of our show, Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, the Rise of Skywalker. Third trailer drops on Monday Night Football. They're saying early October, according to this report, and it is exciting.
This comes from the British Board of Film and Classification, which recently uploaded a trailer certificate called Trailer C. So
that would make sense because ABC. Yeah, I can roll with that.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting how it's the official association that's how we find out about this scheduling link,
and not through like Disney,
right?
Do you think they're going to actually have footage that we haven't seen yet on it, or is it just going to be like a love child between the two trailers that we've seen?
I do not want it to be what the last one was, because three-fourths of that trailer was just clips from the previous films.
I like that last trailer though. It was kind of a nice little montage.
Yeah, but I think people, I just don't think that, at least the fans that I interact with, no one saw that as a movie trailer. They just saw that as just kind of like a highlight, like a highlight
yeah,
reel.
I guess like a celebration of Star Wars.
I think it confused a lot of people. I don't think people realized it was actually promoting a new film out in December, which we know that there's a new Star Wars movie coming out in December. But I was talking to my dad, and he was like, "Oh, I forgot." And my dad likes Star Wars more than the average dude. So I would hope that it would be more new. Here's what would be really cool. If they somehow did showcase the Emperor visually to where you could see what his form will be in the movie. Because so far all we have is the voiceover from that first piece of footage we got from Star Wars Celebration. And I would be really intrigued. Well, no, and I think that he did have some voiceover in this last one. He was talking to Kylo or Rey. We couldn't figure that out. I remember having that conversation. But I would like to see it like somehow showing me the form of the Emperor, because there's some fun theories out there that the Emperor's plan is actually to have Kylo and Rey working together in tandem to rule the galaxy. And this is where we say, this is like spoiler or speculation leak. Making Star Wars Net had this drop maybe it was yesterday, the day before, but it was this conversation having on the website where that's a theory where Palpatine is trying to get Rey and Kylo to do this together and actually have them team up to do his plan.
That's another Reylo.
But see, Reylo's always. I always looked at Reylo as like a romantic team up, which I don't want that.
I look at it as just like just your basic team up, whether that's through romance or being best friends. I don't want it. Okay. Like I honestly I actually feel Kylo doesn't deserve redemption of any kind. He needs to die.
Lacey over at Resistance Broadcast would slap you across the face because she's all about Ben-demption.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
What was that?
It's called Ben-demption.
Ben-demption.
Yeah. Ben-demption, yeah.
Ben-demption should not be a thing. I would like to see a bloodthirsty brawl between Rey and Kylo where they have no love, no friendship, no desire for any of that, and all it is who can kill the other one in the most brutal way possible.
You might be seeing that.
I'd love to see.
When you look at the poster. That might be what we're looking at when they're on whatever that structure is, whether that's the spire of Palpatine on Death Star 2 or
the loser gets fed to Ewoks.
I see. Again, there's
Ewoks, the eat people. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Well, they ate the troopers, right?
They were gonna eat.
Did they?
Yeah, they were gonna eat Han. Remember? They're gonna cook him.
Return of the Jedi.
I guess that makes sense.
You know,
It paints Ewoks in a new light for me.
216. I think if that's a runtime, I don't. If they could give us that nugget, that'd be super great. But I really do think that it's probably just gonna be an extension of the scenes that we've already seen, because that's kind of what happened with The Last Jedi. As those 3 trailers dropped, you kind of just saw different angles from that same scene.
I almost feel like they need to give us something more than just that, because at least from my perspective, as somebody who didn't go to Celebration, somebody who wasn't watching all the D23 content like you guys were, it seems like Disney's really been pushing The Mandalorian a lot more than they've been pushing Episode 9. So I think they need to give us something really, really revealing and something really special in this trailer in order to start pumping up that hype train. Because if not, we're going to get into a situation like we had with Solo, where they didn't do any advertising or enough advertising because they spent all their money making the movie a second time. But then the movie tanked, and it was, albeit it was a pretty good movie. And I don't want that to happen with Episode 9.
I think you have a lot of good points. And that was a concern that we've been voicing, and not like we exclusively, like a lot of fans have been saying. Star Wars has too many stories out there for you to consume. Is that going to be difficult for Disney to prioritize to promote? Because even when you just had one Star Wars movie to promote and you didn't have this Disney Plus projects to advertise the consumer, they were having to compete against Avengers Endgame. You know, we heard that story that, you know, Endgame had the end caps at box stores, and that Star Wars wasn't able to get its merch out there.
Oh, for Solo?
Yeah, for Solo.
Infinity War, yeah.
Right, Infinity War. I'm sorry, I said Endgame. And so if Disney's having a hard enough time managing all these properties for advertising, it's like Star Wars is almost going to consume itself. And so I wonder, I would be fascinated to be part of those meetings where they're having the conversation of like, well, how are we going to get Mandalorian to Jesse Buck, and how are we going to get The Rise of Skywalker to Jesse Buck? Because I feel like it has to be different ways. But
well, I prefer like a HD edition, like Blu-ray box set, and like an advance to Disney Plus. I mean, that's the best way to get it to me. Yeah.
In the live chat right now, we're joined by a bunch of people. We got Gannon136. He thinks it'd be awesome if Palpatine just kind of walked out, slapped his hands together, and said, let's do it. And he follows it up by a comment that gave me a little chuckle. It says, you guys ever wonder if Palpatine wears socks and rubs them against carpet to charge up his electricity?
The kinetic, is that kinetic energy?
Static
Shock.
yeah.
Static.
Yeah.
Static Shock, by the way. Great comic.
Okay, the coming out like clapping makes me think of what's that exercise guy from the is it Richard Simmons or Gene Simmons?
Richard Simmons.
Yeah.
Have him spoof Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, and have like there be curtains that open, and then the Emperor's just kind of like this. And he just kind of unveils himself.
Kind of wiggling all over the place.
I think Ian McDermott could pull that move off.
You know, I mean, he seemed like a pretty nimble guy when we met him. So,
And if he's not nimble, that just makes it even funnier.
well,
Because I don't think I could pull that off.
You were next to Ian when we got the photo at Star Wars Celebration, right?
oh yeah,
So where did you put your hand on him?
around his shoulder.
Okay, so full transparency, I went in low, and I put my hand like here. Give me your back, David. So like when we got in, I was like, "Hey man, how you doing? Really nice to meet you. You know, I've just always enjoyed the movies," and I put my hand down here, and like I got the belt buckle.
You're
like
touching my butt right now.
yeah.
That's-
Like I just want you to know that like that's how low I dropped on
Something
Ian
that
McDermott.
probably did not need to get on camera.
And so no, I was really embarrassed, and I remember I put my hand back. I was like, "Oh, sorry, man," and I'm just
It was a fun experience.
Oh, man.
You missed out on that, Dylan.
So do I buy you breakfast now, or how does this work?
I really could go for an Egg McMuffin after this. Okay, sounds good. All right, so let us know what you think about the potential of having this trailer drop on Monday Night Football. 7th or the 14th would be my assumption because it would be early October. But we've seen the rise of we've seen Last Jedi and Force Awakens have something debut on Monday Night Football too. So
why Monday Night Football?
because I think it's the viewing audience, but it has to be a good game, and that's the thing. Is like if you like sports, right? Which I don't think you follow.
What are those?
Sports. It create like physical activity, strategy, sweating,
Oh,
I learned
limited clothing,
I learned since the Blues were in the
Stanley Cup.
that one. I learned that you don't call a hockey match a ball game.
No, that's baseball.
That's, that was my summer education.
For anyone wondering, is Gilbert faking right now? No, he's not.
no, he's
That
not.
is real. That is honest to God what he thought. Let us know what you think about that. Do you think that trailer will drop on Monday Night Football early October? I think so. I'd be more curious. What do you think that third trailer reveals? Let us know down in the comments below, or you can Facebook or Twitter at BTBD Star Wars. Let's go to the next topic. And big shout out, by the way, to Jordan, who this is our first time doing a remote live show. Jordan is about 250 miles away from us right now, and he's punching the show, so pretty cool.
We miss you.
Actually, what he's doing is he's tapping into the Force and doing this all
I think it's Telnet.
Force internet. I don't know.
Force
something,
internet.
The Mandalorian Season 2 is not officially confirmed by Lucasfilm, but it's been rumored by a few people, specifically by the showrunner, Jon Favreau. Wait, that's not the right term to apply to him because he's not the actor, right?
Showrunner?
Yeah, he's a showrunner,
Yeah,
right?
he's a showrunner.
Yeah, he's the showrunner.
Yeah, he's kind of guiding the whole thing, and then other people direct and write episodes.
Right. So he didn't
Yeah.
get to do an episode. He didn't get to direct an episode in Season 1 because he was tied up with a movie called The Jungle Book. You might have heard of that.
So
Jungle Book or Lion King, or was it both?
Oh, it
Oh,
was
might have been
Lion
Lion
King.
King.
Why did I think Jungle Book?
Well, it's kind of in the same realm, like that children's kind of.
But didn't Jungle Book come first?
I think so.
yeah, Jungle was.
He may have been. It may have
2
been
years ago.
both reasons, but I mean, you're not far off the.
I don't know.
It was one of those live action Disney
Yeah.
movies.
probably Lion King. Come to think of it, 'cause that just
Probably
came
Lion
out
King.
over
And
the
you know,
summer.
like when I read that, that really surprised me because it was like, you know, he's like really excited about being like this is his baby, you know, right in the
Well,
show.
his second kid. His first was Iron Man.
Well, this is true, you know.
And
but
keep
like,
in mind, though, he had Dave Filoni to direct the
Yeah.
very first episode. So, I mean, the thing was in good hands. And, of course, we've gone through, you know, Taika Waititi, you know, countless others that have been involved with that Season 1. But the fact that he comes out and says, hey, Season 2, I'm not just writing, but I'm going to direct an episode, that has to give you some sort of excitement, right, Jesse?
Oh, yeah.
That Season 2 is already well in the works. Sometimes I think we're skittish about Marvel, for example, greenlighting some show for Disney Plus or like another movie. And are you sure that's the right thing to do? You haven't even seen, because I remember what happened with the first Spider-Man.
Mhm.
We got Far From Home announcements. Like, we haven't even seen the first one. We ignored the fact that there was a contract for like 5 movies. We ignored that detail. But here we are. We're getting Mandalorian. We're excited for Season 2.
Although, can I play devil's advocate for a moment?
I mean, sure, but I want to hear it. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you remember that one time that The Last Jedi came out and Disney was super pumped and excited about it, and they put it on the shelf ready to go like 3 months ahead of schedule. And they're like, we have so much faith in this movie that they gave Rian Johnson another trilogy to direct.
Oh, right. Yes, this does sound familiar.
And then we got the premiere, and we were all like, yeah. And then we slept on it, and we were like, oh.
Oh, man. That sounds like The Last Jedi. Did I get that correct? Oh, boy.
I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't.
I don't think The Mandalorian is going to... I don't think The Mandalorian could ever be as controversial as The Last Jedi, because The Last Jedi was playing with original characters and these new characters for the sequel trilogy, where Mandalorian is all new characters and species and planets and spacecrafts and weapons, and there's no investment. Like this is like Rogue One in a way. You're getting Star Wars, you're in that world, but you've got no relationship going into with any of these characters except for like Bail Organa that you see for like 3 seconds.
I don't know. You know, that's the interesting thing. You know, they've been doing all these interviews, and one of the things I saw was they were talking to Dave Filoni. He's like, "When are we going to see some of your characters like Ahsoka, like live action?" And he's got the worst poker face. He really does. Like he starts grinning and kind of chuckling, and it's sitting there making me wonder if we're going to get some real treats with this show.
Well, think about EW was the one that interviewed both Filoni and Favreau, and Filoni was just like, "It's so cool to see a character that you drew, that you created, walk up to you and start talking to you."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Wow, you know, if you feel that way about the Mandalorian, who originally was going to be Boba Fett, in the very early concept of the show, what if Ahsoka would ever walk up to him?"
Well, I mean,
he'd stroke out.
This is the
he
thing.
would die.
Like,
we can't have it happen.
I went back after we had the D23 trailer and then rewatched, like compared what I watched for that with what I saw at Celebration, and I don't have the exact like timestamp for it, but there's actually other Mandalorians in there, and that makes me wonder what all we're gonna see. I mean, we're gonna see Sabine. You know, I mean, this is within that time frame. If you look at the time frame that we got from Rebels and what's happening there, it's possible we could see these characters.
The thing about this rumor that has me the most excited is when we first started talking about this show almost a year ago, Disney at that time was calling it a limited release, a limited series, and they've stopped calling it that, and now we're getting rumors about a second season.
Well, and we've also discussed how limited series means so many different things now in this age of streaming, where a limited series can be 3 seasons, it can be 5 seasons. You know, it's not like a Grey's Anatomy, for example, it's on 16th, 17th season. So I think that definition can kind of change the way that streaming is set up. But you're absolutely right. It's really nice to know, okay, we're going to get at least a second season. Something very similar happened with Resistance. We didn't know we were going to get that second season. Then they greenlit that, ended up telling us it was going to be the final series, so final season rather.
But yeah, I mean, Favreau says that he is writing. You know, they haven't gotten the green light, but he is writing for season 2. That makes me really happy, obviously, because I mean, this is part of the like time wise.
It's happening.
I love it. Like
there was a story that dropped says the Mandalorian on polls. The Mandalorian is the most anticipated title to drop on Disney Plus when November 12th rolls around.
Really? You're not excited for High School Musical, the series?
No. Although I will rewatch the original High School Musical because I freaking love that movie. I will not lie about it. I watched the crap out of that movie when I was younger.
I can see you being a Lady and the Tramp fan. I could see that being like the first thing you watch when you turn on the Disney Plus in November, and like, I want to see 2 dogs making out over spaghetti.
There was no outright denial there, Jesse, so you have some explaining to do.
No, I was actually, because you were talking about being your younger self, and like, so David, he's got like a teddy bear on the other side of a table and a plate of spaghetti on the other side.
And his bowl cut. His bowl haircut.
We don't need to go looking for photos of that bowl cut. Let us know what you think about The Mandalorian and your excitement around Jon Favreau saying that season 2 is in the works, although not officially confirmed. Live chat, anything happening in there?
Live chat. Filoni's such a tease. Real Farm Boy saying that Dave didn't create The Mandalorian, John did.
Correct.
This is correct, yeah.
I think somebody posted my name with 3 little squares. I'm sure those are probably those smiley faces, but what's that mean? Is that just 3 check boxes?
I think that's
could be geometry, and I don't do math.
2med2's going on about how he'll be watching tons of Disney movies.
Open up that vault, baby.
Yeah.
Open up that vault. Well, you can always keep talking to us during the live show by participating on the YouTube live chat. Always let us know what you're thinking about the topics that we're discussing. And with that, let's go on to topic number 3, comic talk here on episode 69 of Beyond the Blast Doors. We are just cruising through the show this week because this is the meat and potatoes.
We haven't done a deep dive into comics lately.
Well,
We've
no.
just kind of skimmed the surface over the summer.
Well, we're in season 3 of Beyond the Blast Doors, in case you hadn't heard, and that's why the numbering is gray now. It was, I think, red, and then it became blue, and now it is gray, indicating a new season. And we took about a 2-month vacation. We had 1 episode in there, I think, but we always kind of step away for the summer because it gets really busy for us. And some people might think, that's kind of weird. That would seem to me like your prime time. That's up for debate. So here we are, and this is our first chance to dive into comics, and this is the Age of Resistance Snoke issue that has people's attention this past week. It was teased quite a bit. Tom Taylor is the writer behind this comic book, and this is something that he has been teasing for the last several weeks. First off, his excitement over the fact that when he walked into Marvel and pitched this idea, they said yes. And it was very controversial. And we started understanding why this was going to be such a controversial comic potentially when we got the sneak peek at the comic, because we see Snoke and Kylo Ren on Dagobah. And you're like, well, that's a freaking mind-blowing concept. How are they there? Why are they there? What would lead them to go there? You start asking these questions. I think that the comic really works for me overall. And to me, this is my favorite Age of Resistance of these, because the Macro series has been good. But I thought it started out so strong with Jodie Hauser, and I think that I got so invested into her work with Age of Republic that the Rebellion kind of fell flat for me, and then this Age of Resistance was real hit and miss. But again, I think that's just because I'm still my relationship with these characters is still evolving. I've got a lot more time invested with these other characters. So first things first, Kylo Ren and Snoke on Dagobah, David.
There are so many questions that this poses for me, because how did Snoke know about this nexus of the dark side of the Force on Dagobah that Yoda used to hide in for so many years? I mean, Yoda went there to hide.
Correct.
And who knew Yoda was there? Obi-Wan and Luke and Bail Organa and is that about it?
Maybe Captain Antilles, if he was eavesdropping.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a stretch.
Well, and they also talk about in the original trilogy how this planet is one of the strongest planets in the world, or in the galaxy, as far as the Force is concerned, like the concentration of life and beings and such. But right, how does Snoke know about Dagobah? Is this the thing where he broke into Kylo's mind? Did he break into Luke's mind? Did he learn about it through a teaching of Luke? We still don't know enough about Snoke to know if this came through Kylo, through Skywalker himself.
And even if he knows about the planet, how did he know about the cave?
What if that? With Rey, they always show Rey's staff. They're always showing that ring on Snoke's finger. And I just want to know, what is that stone?
Oh, the black one.
I don't know if we could do some research real quick in this moment because I failed to do it beforehand. But I want to know the significance of that ring. Because at first I was like, maybe that's piece of the dark saber. But that doesn't make sense because that doesn't look like it's part of a blade, right? Yeah. And so that makes no sense. And that couldn't be possible because it's the crystal, right? Emitter. Anyways, so then I'm thinking, well, is it from a planet? And for some reason, I thought I read that the ring is a rock from Vader's castle on Mustafar. But then I don't think that I actually read that. Maybe I had that in a dream. And if that's the case, then I wonder if that has any connection to Dagobah. But I think to me, the easiest explanation would be, well, Kylo trained under Luke as Ben. Ben probably went to Dagobah maybe with Luke, and then it didn't happen, and then somehow Snoke uncovers this through the Force and feels like he has to take him there for him to do his trial of the mirror.
Well, yeah, it brings up a lot of questions because. This is showing, that early relationship between Snoke and Kylo. Mm-hmm. But what it does is it leaves me going, okay, I want to actually know more about Luke. Prior to this, I want to know about his Jedi Academy. Wink, wink.
Well, that's going to be a really nice segue in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know, right? No, because really, all we know is that Luke tried to reinvent the Jedi Order, and he had basically a fit of his own darkness because he was seeing the darkness, and Kylo, and resisted it. But we all know that plot line. But it's just like I want to know. Like, I mean, we have 30 years from the Return of the Jedi to the Last Jedi. I still want to know what happened there, because on some degree we do know that. Okay, like, well, Battlefront 2, we know that Luke is kind of going off seeking knowledge. That's it. That's all we have post Return of the Jedi to Last Jedi. And it's just, there's a lot to fill in the gaps there. I want a novel. I want a comic book telling me, like maybe seeing some of these mistakes, that Luke was maybe making, but didn't know he was, making them.
I think that's all great, but you got a comic book. Let's talk about that comic book.
So with that comic book, yeah, it's like,
they blew up the cave,
and I love that cave. Look,
you're mad about it. You did not like this comic book.
No, like it's something with the sequel trilogy that seems to go about just like destroying thing, and maybe that's he's being resistant,
but I mean, literally destroyed the cave. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like they kill Han, they've off Luke, and now here we go, we're destroying another like landmark from the original trilogy, and it's just like, why?
But killing Han to me is the most important moment in this comic. Is when he faces Luke and kills Luke. He faces his parents, and he doesn't, and instead chooses to destroy the cave. Like, to me, this is more of a Kylo comic than it is a Snoke comic.
Oh, totally. And I like the fact that
because of the character growth we see going from this comic into The Force Awakens.
You think he ultimately beats Luke, and you're like, okay, so he passed the test, and that wasn't the true test. Was Han and Leia, which I thought was really telling, because I think Kylo, and it's because of his training with Snoke, he always tries to make Luke the scapegoat. It's Luke's fault. He betrayed me. He didn't teach me enough. He didn't make me strong enough. And even in the cave, he tried to make his demon Luke. He beat Luke. The problem is his love and compassion with Han and Leia. And so I thought that was really well done. But that's surprisingly the destruction of the cave, the mirror, the test of him taking down his parents and Luke was not the controversy coming out of this comic. It's the very beginning of this comic where you have Snoke training Kylo, and he basically just throws him off a cliff down to his death, and he's trying to like scare Kylo in a way to realize his power.
Yeah, I don't know. There's pros and cons of this comic. Like, my favorite, that was probably actually one of my favorite moments. He's dangling Kylo over the edge of this cliff, and he's saying like, anger and fear makes you do this stuff, and it's just like, oh, by the way, toodles.
Hey, I want to shout out our buddy in the live chat, Gannon. Cover my butt here. Patrick's the best. He confirmed that the ring is obsidian. It's from Mustafar under Vader's castle. So I didn't make that up. I did read that somewhere. I can't remember the source where I read that, but glad to know that was fact, and I wasn't misleading anyone.
And you know what? I just rolled through the comic again. Every big picture of Snoke, that ring is right there.
It's very present.
I didn't notice that.
You know what it reminds me of, and what it makes me think of, though. Well, they might be saying that's part of that. It makes me think of the crystal from Splinter in Mind's Eye.
Okay.
Which was a crystal that enhanced one's Force abilities, and that just kind of I'm wondering if it's kind of the same thing here.
That would be kind of a cool way. And in case you don't know what that is, and
I don't.
Our audience is pretty smart. That was originally the sequel to A New Hope. That was before Lucas decided he was going to do Empire Strikes Back. And I think the general consensus is, while there's some interesting aspects of that book, we like The Empire Strikes Back better.
We do.
I think that's a general consensus.
Okay, so favorite part of your comic, Jesse, then David.
I actually found it funny when Snoke was just like, "Get rid of that helmet. You're not Darth Vader." It's like a grandpa scolding a kid.
So that's been like a theme since the early days of the relationship, is what we learned. So I think that was interesting. I think for me, my favorite moment, I really did like the reveal that Han and Leia was his true, mirror test. But I did like the idea of him being thrown to this pit to force himself to use the Force to save his life. This is something that we saw Luke do in The Last Jedi. He used the Force to brace himself before he fell on Ahch-To. And this is something that we've seen Yoda kind of do when he was defeated in Revenge of the Sith. He had his fall comes down. I think he used the Force in a way to guide himself down the fall after the Emperor defeated him. And the controversy here is they're saying that they think this is foreshadowing how the Emperor saved himself in Return of the Jedi. The speculation is that he gets thrown down the shaft, and then he uses the Force at the last minute to save himself at the bottom, and somehow runs away into his ship and leaves the Death Star. Which I guess that's possible. It seems very unlikely.
I like Snoke's little quip right there when he says, "If you're going to rule at my side, I can't have you defeated by heights."
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what, though? That when you think about that, though, that does kind of give a nudge to that scene in Return of the Jedi, the Emperor being thrown down the shaft, and it also is reminiscent of Yoda falling down and having to kind of like be, saved again. Luke had to be, Luke recovered Yoda.
What I want to know is how is he going to, did he teach him how to win over somebody who has the high ground?
Probably not, because
that's a height issue there.
They all seem to struggle with that.
My favorite moment's at the very end when Snoke makes the comment about how you destroyed that cave. It's been there for thousands of years, and Kylo says, "Well, the past is the past." And Snoke says, "Well, I'd hope to bring other apprentices here." And Kylo turns and walks away and says, "You won't need other apprentices."
Which there's so much there in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's the death and destruction of Snoke. You get that angsty Kylo, that rage-filled Kylo.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the idea of let the past die, kill it if you must. I just didn't like that he killed my past. No, I'm just kidding. I'm dying. The Last Jedi wasn't really that bad of a movie after all. I think that's also something really important to point out. The microcosm. This many people hate The Last Jedi. There's so many people who can find things in that movie that they love. Let's go ahead and jump to the last topic of our show here, which I think is kind of fun because we're all gamers in our own right. But this is a blast from the past, the resurrection of one Kyle Katarn. This was beautiful. This is like Easter Sunday. They've rolled back the rock. And where is... He's alive. He is risen. Kyle Katarn back. Not in canon, though. That was a deep biblical cut. And that is not what the show is primarily about. But really excited about the idea that Jedi Outcast is going to be playable not just for the Nintendo Switch, because frankly, I don't have the Nintendo Switch and I don't want it, but I do have friends who have PS4s, and I feel like that game would be so much fun on the PS4. And I get like blank stares in response. You guys aren't excited about this game coming back?
Who do you know that has a PS4?
Huh?
Who do we know?
Oh, you have a PS2. Oh, and then the one guy moved.
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh,
I have a Switch.
Yeah.
You have a Switch?
I do.
You do have a Switch?
But that's not like a shareable thing. Like I want to do like multiplayer on the PS4.
Well, Outcast won't have multiplayer at all.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me excited about this is, Kyle Katarn's character. The backstory is that he was a spy. He stole the plans for the first Death Star. Which got uprooted with Rogue One.
Correct.
So he's kind of been in limbo, and it's kind of nice for them to bring this back and kind of familiarize maybe younger, fans. The Switch is very popular. I mean, my niece wants one really bad, and she might have one now, actually. But
is there Pokemon for the Nintendo Switch?
Yeah.
Oh, see, the best Nintendo games are always the Pokemon games.
But
they make other games?
Well, like Super Mario and crap.
Oh, yeah.
The interesting, this is actually... I would consider it like the third in this, like the Dark Forces series of games.
Okay.
But this is a really great game. This is Kyle Katarn struggling with, his Jedi heritage, reclaiming it, relearning it. The overall story is just fantastic. I remember the gameplay the most. It had some of the best lightsaber combat for its time, which was unheard of. I mean, this is pre Force Unleashed. And this was like a lot of fun. And it did have a multiplayer function, like a deathmatch, which most games did at that time.
Now, for this game, though, with the re-release, we are not getting the multiplayer until later in 2020.
Not for Jedi Outcast.
Right.
What they're going to follow up with is Jedi Academy, which is coming out in 2020.
Yes.
And Jedi Academy, to this day, is actually, there's still actually quite the community that plays it. It's something that was, you can use the mods. Character skins. There's some really neat stuff. Look it up on YouTube. Just Jedi Academy mods, and you'll see some crazy things happen.
September 24th is the date we really need to keep in mind. That's when Outcast is going to drop for Nintendo Switch and PS4. And like you mentioned, Academy will drop in 2020. Now, Gilbert, help me out with this because there's also some playback abilities with the Xbox, right?
So the original game had a version that was released on Xbox.
Okay.
So Xbox is not getting its own new version It'll have but all modern Xbox, what is it, 360? No,
Xbox One.
Xbox One. They have back play capability, so anybody can play if they go get the old disc for the original Xbox. So that way you can still play on Xbox and PS4 and Nintendo Switch.
Which is pretty cool, but what I haven't been able to get answered in reading these articles and seeing what people on Twitter are saying. Like, no one's saying if are they revamping the graphics package though for the PS4 and the Nintendo Switch, or is this going to be just the exact same game just on the new platform?
That's what I've been like. The limited amount of gameplay that they've shown for this, I've been like trying to look at it and go, okay, did they maybe slightly, like enhance maybe the character models? Like I recently picked up Final Fantasy VIII for my Switch. 8 is one, and you've got the new 7 coming out. But they did this for Final Fantasy VIII. Where at least with the character models, they've refreshed that. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers. Maybe that's what they did here. It's probably too much work to go through like the entire game to all the textures, like for the environments, but at least with the character models, I think that's feasible.
So I'm not seeing anything on graphics yet, but here's something I found from Elizabeth Howard, who's the vice president of publishing at Asper, which is the company. They're responsible for Civilization, Call of Duty, a lot of the Star Wars stuff from the early 2000s, Borderlands, The Sims. And Elizabeth is saying here that delivering classic Star Wars games to modern consoles with the experience maximized to take advantage of latest controls and features is a responsibility we take very seriously. So maybe not necessarily graphics, we'll have to wait and see on that one, but it sounds like they are going to update the gameplay a little bit to make it more friendly to what we're used to in 2019.
That's really exciting to me.
Yeah.
I want to see, what if you got Jedi Outcast in your hands September 24th and it was the graphics of Battlefront 2?
It unfortunately, like I have a Switch, and while the Switch it's surprising like what it can handle and what it can do.
Oh, no, I'm thinking about the PS4. Your Switch is going to have like a Diet Coke version for sure.
Yeah, like
it's going to look like Toon Link.
That's where I feel like you're not going to get something like.
But the PS4 like though, I think has the opportunity, because you're taking a game that for me, I always play these games on the PC. So to me, they were PC games and PC Master Race. So when you take that PC game and you put it to PS4. Like, I feel like that's such a huge leap. You're talking about like HD quality visuals. You're talking about the depth and texturing that has evolved since 2002. I think you have the opportunity to have like a really good looking game.
Opportunity, but you have to remember there's that cost. You have to have people to go back in and refine those textures and that gameplay, and that takes time. It's not something that can be done in a week.
And I'm not sure if that's necessary. I mean, I think World of Warcraft Classic has proven that you don't necessarily need to bring it up to modern standards to still be able to have people who want to go back and relive their story for nostalgia because they enjoyed it. And if you just update the controls, make it a little less laggy.
So story still reigns supreme.
Yeah, I think so.
I think this is nice because, I mean, again, we've got Jedi Fallen Order coming out November 15th. So this is kind of nice to, like, here's another like Jedi, have some fun with some lightsaber combat. Maybe kind of get you pumped for like that newer modern game.
It was so fun to run around slicing stormtroopers. The stories were great. There was the one on the Sandcrawler that I remember. There was some station, I don't remember where, but I just always thought that it was so cool because I love the new worlds and the new locations that those games introduced us to. Will you buy it?
I never played it.
Well, will you play it now?
Maybe we'll see.
Are you serious?
Yeah, because here's the thing. I got what was that game I just got the other day, a couple months ago, when Steam had their sale?
Old Republic.
Old Republic. I got Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2.
Okay.
And I started playing 1 upon Jesse's recommendation. Yeah. And I played for like 3 hours trying to figure out the controls and get to where I needed to be. And then my computer crashed and I hadn't saved. So
rookie error on his part.
You're better than that.
I am, but I haven't wanted to go back in and play those same 3 hours again.
He's so heartbroken over it. It's funny.
Did you like that story though?
I liked like the 3 hours I played. Like it was enjoyable. I'm sure it was even more enjoyable the further you got.
There's a lot of people out there that say the Knights of the Old Republic, like that era, that is going to be the best next Star Wars, and we cross our fingers that Benioff and Weiss will take care of that. Yeah. But I'm assuming, Jesse, you're going to do this.
At the price point's right. I'm not going to dish out like $60 for a game that has been out for so many years. where like I said, I just picked up Final Fantasy VIII, the remake for the Switch. That was $20. I kind of feel like that's a reasonable price for
8-9 hours of entertainment.
Yeah. Jedi Academy, I'd be more leaning towards because that's going to have a online multiplayer function. It's also the sequel to Jedi Outcast. So, I mean, if you're going to get Jedi Academy, it's one of those things. Like maybe if there's like a sale, I'd pick them both up. They're good games. They have good stories. Keep in mind they're not canon. And that like a lot of what happens is obviously changed now because of the movies, but there's some elements there that maybe could make their way back into the official story. So
down in the live chat, we've got 2med2 who's saying, "Give me the A and B buttons." Gannon136 says, "If I were a betting man, they aren't upping the graphics." And Real Farm Boy hopped into that conversation and said that's what he's been hearing on other Star Wars podcasts.
Okay.
So thank you for listening to us, but I'm a little offended you listen to other people too.
Oh,
there can only be one.
You're cheating on me, and it hurts just a little bit right here.
No, I think everyone in the Star Wars community probably has like 5 or 7 different podcasts they listen to, so it's quite all right. But I think I would be interested. I don't know if I'm picking this up or I'm going to play someone else's copy. But I think that if I was a guy who is saving his dollars right now and a big gamer, I'd be waiting for Jedi Fallen Order, because Jedi Fallen Order. Yep. This is the big test for EA when it comes to the Star Wars gaming, because, well, even though it's technically Respawn, right? The idea is still here being that this game is the first actual story that we're getting that's not a Battlefront game in this EA Star Wars era.
Now, I would argue though.
Okay.
The Battlefront 2 story was actually remarkably good.
It was great.
I really enjoyed it.
Wish it was longer.
I wish it was longer. I wish that we got more time with Iden, aka Janina Von Carr. But we didn't. So this is exciting that we're getting our first game dedicated to Star Wars, like modern era game. The graphics look good. I want to play this game. Jedi
Fallen Order will be great. That's according to Gannon in the live chat. He actually says that there's rumors of a new trailer dropping any week now. Last final push for Jedi Fallen Order that will drop. And that's the crazy thing, is by the time you get to Rise of Skywalker, you've watched The Mandalorian and you have played Jedi Fallen Order.
And we are exactly 2 months out from the release of Jedi Fallen Order.
Wow.
Yeah.
We are, I think, like 95 or 94 days away from Rise of Skywalker.
It's like countdown mode. I'm starting going, okay, I've got this and this, can I get away with request off for these days,
Have you ever seen on the news, sometimes they'll do a thing where it's like, just to mess with you, they'll be like, this many days until, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the New Year, just like mess with families.
Well, I think a TV station does that.
It's the same concept, right? It's just like this many days until this game, this show, this movie.
15 Fridays to Christmas or something.
Except for Christmas for me, it's Christmas year round now. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
The Hobby Lobby. Deck the halls with copyright infringement. All right, so hey, so that's going to do it for episode 69 of Beyond the Blast Doors. Did the whole show, didn't make one inappropriate joke. Really glad that you were with us. And you know what? Honestly, round of applause, everybody, because Jordan Hall, the director extraordinaire, has made this show possible from 250 miles away. And we didn't know that it was even possible. And so it's really cool to honestly just to have this all figured out. And it was full transparency. He was with me right before the show, and I'm like, the camera won't focus. And he's like, damn it, we've come too far for you not to know how to focus a camera. So we were able to figure that out and do the show a little early today on this Sunday. And as always, if you want to follow us, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You're able to catch the live show on YouTube. Great. Usually it's at 11 a.m. Today we did it at 9 a.m., 9:15 a.m. I kind of like this better, as long as Jesse gets his coffee. Let us know what you think about when you think the show should stay. Should we stick to the Sunday mornings at 11? Should we move it earlier to the 9? You let us know. If you're not into the live show, you're not able to make the live show, maybe you're on the West Coast or the East Coast, that makes a lot of sense. You can always find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, where you can listen to a podcast. You can find us. In the meantime, episode 70, next week, could we have some goodies to talk about in Age of the Resistance, Rose, Tico? No, I don't know. I'm not even sure if that issue's out next week. That was a complete stretch. Don't look it up. That's the tease. Episode 70 next week. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us. For Jesse, David, and David, may the Force be with you.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.